What do we think, people? Do we call it season 4? It is Luke, Zachariah, and I. We are back in business for whatever we want to call it, whether we're going to call it season 4,
Probably season 4.
season 3, episode 2. It's a little while between drinks, mate. How you doing?
Good. Very good. Yourself?
Yeah, mate. Pretty good. Pretty good. We've got a beautiful sunny day here. UV index of 3, so that means I'm going to last for
10
at
minutes.
least about 20, 25 minutes before we start burning. So we're all good in front of the camera. But
It won't be that long.
yeah, beautiful sunny day here in Perth. We decided it was time to dust off your camera, dust off the microphones, and dust off the brain, and get back in front of the camera and have a bit of fun. So we've got some pretty solid plans over the next couple of months to bring you some content and get things happening again.
Absolutely. I think, I think we will probably call it season 4 because, I don't know, I guess it's just that next season, I guess, of life in itself. Because I guess we started this last year leading into Worlds as season 1, and I guess it was the start of the journey of us onto what we were hoping would be Paris, and then season 2 was the lead into Paris, and season 3 was probably initially the summer of racing, and then a couple of things probably came up from more so, I guess, my perspective and where I was at, and a few stresses which then probably put a halt of that, which then meant we didn't film anything the rest of the season. And I think coming into season 4 now, we're kind of working towards hopefully another selection to Worlds again, and reflecting, we were just chatting before, reflecting as well that maybe we want to try a different format too, which will help suit, I guess, the demands of training, as well as us trying to be a bit more concise in what we want to try to deliver and bring to you as a viewer. And yeah, I think that's probably a good segue into kind of talking a bit on what we have done, what we're looking to do, where we want to go, what we kind of want to make this, because I think the value that we add is, I guess, what we discuss, because the way in which we communicate with each other and do discuss is what we do quite regularly within our training environment. However, when we have a bit more time to kind of reflect, we can be a little bit more, I guess, open or just more profound, I guess, in some regard to that. So just, yeah, probably a slight shift, maybe a little bit less training footage per se, like not necessarily just discussing the day, but we'll discuss the weeks and I guess how that kind of leads into us building towards the next seasons of our journey off the back of Paris.
Yeah, I guess it was just us trying to think about how we could be more impactful for you as the viewer or the listener, and think about how we could come into these conversations that we're having going, well, how can we actually be a value add for the viewer or listener with the work that we're doing in the high performance landscape. I think it would be very easy for us to kind of pick up where we left off with the same sort of format, which would be showing the same sort of training that we have done for those of you that have watched the first couple of seasons, and talk about a similar sort of thing where we're starting to build momentum towards these competitions, and kind of building momentum towards something that we don't actually know whether we're going to be doing or not. Like it's kind of following the same trajectory which our seasons usually do. So we thought, let's kind of shake it up a little bit. Let's space out the episodes and kind of have one a fortnight. So we're kind of taking a bit of time to be able to reflect and actually
introspective, as some would say.
Yeah, exactly. Taking a bit more time to be a little bit more introspective, and kind of prepare for that time to talk about what's been on our mind, and some maybe some challenging moments or some things that we've learned across the last couple of weeks, or some things that have helped us, or some challenges that we've faced, and be able to talk about them in a little bit more detail, with obviously a little bit of overlay of training footage and things like that as well.
Yeah, so we still are going to show training footage and discuss on what we're doing the day to day. I guess it's a little bit less about what initially went on in, say, one particular session, and probably a bit more of an overview around how we are feeling and how we're kind of handling, I guess, the prep and challenges that come up and all those kinds of things, because I think that's potentially the value that we can kind of take this direction as well, because like when you reflect back on a story, it's not necessarily like one session per se, but maybe your overview of everything that you've kind of gone through and how you kind of perceive that, and taking that separation away from, I guess, the day-to-day allows us more time to think deeply and clearly around what's kind of going on and how we articulate ourselves, and
and I think
share that be able to share that across with people.
And I think it allows us both to be a little bit more authentic as well when we're coming with our own ideas, coming into each kind of podcast / video that we're going to be doing as well. Is we're going to be able to come with our own thoughts and kind of unpack them too, and kind of build things each time as well.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
So I guess on the basis of that, what has been going on the last several months with yourself since we kind of last filmed early in the year? We're now July, so it's been about 4 months since then, since we started.
Yeah, so I think the last one that we did was before our domestic season, which since then we raced at Nationals and Oceanias, which we didn't have a long prep there, considering that the time off that we had after the major, which was the Paris Paralympics. So we kind of raced exactly as we kind of expected with the prep that we had leading in. A really good opportunity to have a good quality hit out as well, or a couple of good quality hit outs too, which we don't get a lot of opportunities to race. So for me, I haven't had quite as many opportunities to race in my whole career as what you have in your career as well. So it was a great opportunity to go over there and just have a bit of fun with it as well. And then since then, we've come back in, and the training has been biblical in proportions. We've had some massive training sessions, just laying down a really solid foundation. We had a period of time where the track was actually shut, so we did 3 weeks of training stationary on the Le Monde, which for anyone in the cycling world that knows Le Monde sessions, they are infinitely harder than riding on the track. Well, I believe that is the case. Highly fatiguing sessions, and for those that aren't in the cycling world, the Le Monde is like a stationary trainer that you hook up your track bike into to be able to train off the track pretty much. So been a really solid block. I'm feeling super strong right now, and I'm actually really excited to see how we apply that, particularly when we start to freshen up a little bit, because the fatigue levels are really high at the moment. So I'm really excited to see how we can apply that onto the bike as we get closer to competition, because I feel like I'm just in a far better position than what I have been at this same stage before any competition. And really excited for the next little bit. And that's where with my excitement and the journey that I've been on, even in the last couple of months, I'm really excited to bring that to the camera and bring that to the microphone as well, is to be able to speak about the journey I've been on, because I feel almost like a far different athlete to what I was 2-3 months ago with even the self-belief that I've been building about my position in the squad and in the team, and the experience that I have as a cyclist now as well. I feel like I have more value in the conversations around the optimization of our sport as well. And like with the experience that I've gained in the last year, I feel like I have a really solid place and a really solid platform to build off, and I can honestly say I've never felt like this before. So I'm excited to kind of unpack that and share that a little bit too.
Yeah, and I think that just goes to show that we've discussed this many times before, but just generating that evidence as well. Like, you've been in a phase of accumulating consistency with the training. We've had not necessarily disruptions to what we've been doing. We've actually found little blocks of like really solid training within a bit of downtime and relax time, and then kind of building back up again. And we're definitely in a phase now where we're continuing to build and progress upon that, particularly over the next however many weeks it is till Worlds, again, pending selection. And yeah, you're definitely growing as well in terms of like how you're showing up and the weights that you're lifting in the gym and the way like your power numbers and stuff. Like, you are a different athlete than what you were 4 months ago, and even you reflected on your numbers a year ago. You're exponentially different as well, and that's the continued progression, and having that space in between those to be able to articulate that, you can kind of see more of the picture itself, which again I think is why it's important that we do this. Potentially we'll try this in this format where we go, okay, a bit more time in between, because day to day you might not see many shifts, but over a period of time you see a far greater difference.
100%. It's that compounding, and I've seen that compounding in the sport where the work that I put in over the last couple of years has got me to where I am now, and it's only going to compound even more from here. And here we go with the profound stuff, but it's like I'm starting to see that compounding effect happening in other areas of my life as well. And I think that's really exciting when the high performance mindset that I've gained from being in this sport, I'm starting to see it kind of leak into those other areas of life as well. And that just really excites me too. And it also helps me to relax in the sport as well. When I see other areas of life really progressing, I'm like, what I'm doing here is the right thing for me, because it's not just about the sport. It's about all of the other high performance mindset that I'm gaining across all the other areas of life as well. And I'll put a full stop on that, because we're going to go into so much detail on this stuff over the next couple of episodes, because I want to hear about you as well, mate, and what you've been up to and where you're at. And how's it going?
Yeah, not bad.
Not bad.
That's my answer. No, to go back to what we were discussing before around like when we first started picking up the season 3, again leading into the domestic season, it's coming off such a massive prep and build leading into Paris, leading into every single competition that we kind of had prior to that, where we effectively were fighting for our life. And that's the experience of a lot of athletes, that every comp you go to, you kind of are fighting for your life in terms of scholarship and support and funding and whatever other things may be around a particular event. However, you do get to a certain point in your career where if you've done the work, you get rewarded with the opportunity of actually having to have a bit of a break and downtime, because you've earned the right for the next selection, for the next competition, that you don't need to be in that fight or flight state constantly. And I think when we came back to training, my mindset was around that's where I thought we were. And I probably had a bit of in my head, maybe a slower approach to training to them being the point we are now, where we can really start to push because of what had been and how intense it was, and what is coming up, and also how intense it will be. I think you need a bit of that space and time to kind of not mosey about and kind of not do things, but just be content and happy with just showing up and doing the work, and be okay with that, and not having to have that pressure to perform. And I found myself in a spot where I put pressure on myself that we needed to perform earlier in the year. I definitely physically was not in shape to do so, nor capable, which then also affected my mental state, which was probably the reason why we did kind of stop doing the filming, because it was just too much at the time. And it's not until now, after the fact, that I can actually reflect on that and be like, okay, maybe I actually wasn't ready to return to that level of training. And since then, we've kind of had some, we've raced, we've kind of got those, I guess, semi-nerves out of the way after, because those thoughts do go through your head, like, can I still do this? And we kind of face those things all the time. So I think getting back into that racing mode was good, to then kind of be like, okay, yes, I still enjoy it. Yes, I'm still having fun. Yes, there's work to do. However, we're in a good place. We can kind of build from here. And considering what we did off the prep that we had, and particularly myself, it's still quite a good it's still a semi-decent performance to begin with. But it gives us a really good basis to build off now, to continue over the next several years, which will be quite intense leading into major comps such as Com Games and Worlds and LA as well. There's a lot of things. It's a big journey. So if you're like gun ho from the start 4 years out, I don't think that's sustainable, and I don't think that will kind of eventuate in. At some point you will break. And I think just for me at the start of the year was just learning that, maybe I wasn't ready to come back to training, because even after Paris, like I basically did nothing for 3 months. I was in the gym working and kind of wanted to separate myself.
Just going to the Swolympics.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting huge.
Getting fat. But then when I returned to training, I remember thinking to myself, like, I'm actually excited to come back to track. However, I wasn't anticipating things out of my control coming up and how I would respond to that. And then physically not being ready and in shape then meant that was adding to that mental stress and mental load. And I was like, I can't, and I don't want to go through another several years of this fight or flight as well. It's like we're in a space where we should have earned the right to be where we are, which we have. But then again, having that separation to then kind of just be like, it's okay, like I feel this way. Are you going to pick that up?
Hey, doggo. Keep talking, mate. If I throw this ball for the dog, it's going to keep coming back.
Keep coming back.
Keep going, mate.
Lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
Of course you have. He's going to come back.
He's going to come back.
If you had to go on for 3-4 years and do the same thing, again, that's kind of where you left off.
Yeah. in terms of like a cycle itself is 4 years, which is an extremely long period of time, which then can be broken down into several different components of preparation, different competitions, different major events, and different training blocks within it. So I think just breaking things down on like a more of a micro level helps to look at the macro level itself and be like, okay, well, what's the journey to kind of get to that point? How do I get there? Whereas, as I was saying, I wasn't ready for I wasn't ready for the start of the year. In terms of the macro, I was focusing too far ahead and not focusing, okay, well, what's the challenge right now? And I think that's where we were in a really good place leading into us getting selected in 2023 was, and I've discussed on this recently, it's like, okay, well, what's the next thing, which then unlocks the next challenge? And so it's just focus on the immediate and what's in front of us and then onto the next challenge. Whereas when I came back at the start of the year, I was focusing too far ahead, thinking too far down the line and then catastrophizing and thinking, well, if this doesn't happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and then I'm going to be kicked out of the sport again. Like that's where my head was at. Whereas since then, I've been able to separate myself from my initial thoughts and feelings initially and be like, okay, well, okay, I felt that way. These are the reasons why, because, you know, the pressures and stresses that went into preparing for Paris, all the things that we dealt with behind the scenes, how I felt after the case of like our performance, and then being like, okay, well, how do we, oh my God.
He's back again.
He's back again. I'm not kicking the ball because he's just going to bother us again. I was on a roll.
Yeah, so the pressure and all of that kind of, it almost bubbled over the surface after Paris, considering everything that we've been to, because we had to constantly shut it out.
Yeah.
And
dog slobber, I love it.
Just get rid of him. Go on, get out of here. So we go again. So it seemed like all of the pressure and everything that was leading into Paris then were bubbling over after, because they had the ability to. Every other time we'd been forced into like squashing these feelings and emotions down to then re-optimize for the next step.
Yeah.
There was never really an opportunity for us to kind of reflect and sit back and kind of let all those thoughts, feelings and emotions kind of bubble to the surface. And tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like at that point they did when you weren't really expecting it to.
Yeah. Like for me, it was a case of, I don't think I had fully dealt with and decompressed from the Paris experience itself and just my own internal thoughts and feelings. And that took some time, and it probably took longer than I expected it to. I thought the 3 months after the games was enough time, but then hindsight, actually, it probably wasn't the case. It probably did take longer. And I remember having a brief conversation with one of my friends, Connor, after he won the team pursuit. He's kind of like, I don't really feel motivated to train. I'm like, I feel that's a pretty common thing for anybody that kind of gets to that pinnacle. It's like you set the goal and you get there, and it's kind of like, well, what's next? What is the next step? And I think returning back to training, I kind of didn't really have a clear goal and a clear target, which I didn't want at the time. However, I just went straight back into the cycle of everything that we do, the grind, and yeah, like I said, mentally I wasn't ready. Whereas I think to be able to take the step back and think of it from a far larger term by looking at the micro things and be like, okay, well, the next goal that we try to unlock and achieve is Worlds. That's the next thing pending selection. Then, okay, we've got a 16-week block. We focus and look at that. And then once we go there, perform at whatever comes, then the next thing unlocks, which ideally, hopefully, will become games. And I think when we had that approach, or when I had that approach, is when we saw the most amount of success, because we would show up, be present for the day and enjoy the training environment that day and not be stressed by what's coming up. And I think we see this as well with other athletes too, that they fight the unnecessary fights and the battles that aren't theirs to battle, which adds stress and pressure, which then brings into that cycle of negativity and that downward spiral, which I know that I sometimes can fall in that space, but then just being able to be like, hang on, I need to stop here. What am I actually doing? Where do I want to go? What's the next objective? What do we unlock?
Yeah. And
then move forward that way. I think that's when I felt personally for us was the most success, was from after I came back from holidays in 2023. It was like, okay, we've got 16 weeks to nationals. We need to go here, perform, do this time. That's the next thing. Then after that, we unlock that next goal.
Yeah, what we were doing was very specific. And it feels like we're heading back into that specificity with our training, going, this is the thing that we're building towards, and we're going 110% full steam ahead for that one thing. The specificity is returning.
Yeah, and it's also, to take that out of the sporting context, it's also life as well. Like I try to have that similar view to life, that things will work out as they are planned or as they happen. I can't control that. And I think from listening to a bit of evolutionary psychology stuff as well, that we are inherently, we like certainty, which we don't actually ever have in life, which I'm actually okay with uncertainty. I just know what I want to do in the moment and what I'm working towards. That then gives me a lot of agency to focus on what I need to do and what I'm going to do moving forward, as opposed to thinking the worst case scenario that if I don't get a job and don't have money, then I can't do this and I can't, live the life that I want. It's like, no, I'm content with what I'm doing in the moment right now, being here present, where my feet are. Like I say, what is it? May your mind rest where your feet are. And I think being able to do that more frequently helps get through those tough and challenging times. In the roundabout way with the dog interruptions, I think we got there.
Bars. That was so good, and I reckon that's a great place to kind of round it off. I got nothing else to add. That was beautiful. There's the short, mate.
The short.
You can chop that up. There's your reel. There's your short.
I need to get back on the gram.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So there's your brain rot content right there, because that was beautiful. So, we'll pick it up again in 2 weeks' time, and looking forward to getting back in front of the camera. And please, like, in the comment section or anything like that, just reach out to us if there's any feedback or anything you want to see or anything you want to hear from us. Let us know. We're really open to suggestions too.
We'll be a little bit more concise as well. We'll have ideas, and as you discuss what is on your mind, and things will come up, and we will discuss them in more of that manner, as well as showing the training footage too. So stay tuned for the next one.
Bit more structure, probably the same amount of waffle.
Always.
All right. See you soon.
See ya.